The voice no one wanted to hear, as told by Frank Miller. You ever wake up thinking the day's gonna be quiet, simple, maybe even peaceful? That was me. Monday morning. I had my usual routine: oatmeal with cinnamon, shoes with no laces, and a plastic bag of fruit for the breakfast kids over at East Flint Elementary. It wasn't much, but it made me feel useful, grounded, human. I'm no hero. I don't wear a badge or a robe, and I ain't got a cape tucked in my closet. I'm just Frank, 62, retired elevator tech, knees that sound like bubble wrap, and a habit of showing up early to help in places most people overlook, especially schools. So there I was, back straight, mind calm, picking up a tiny red lunchbox a first grader had dropped. The kid was one of those shy ones, always rubbing his sleeves and staring at the floor. I reached down, handed it back, gave him a small pat on the shoulder. And that's when I heard it. Parents, the ones who are here. She blinked, confused. Excuse me? I'm not here to make noise. I just have something to say. Then I'll go. Mr. Miller, this isn't scheduled, and no, ma'am, this kind of thing is never scheduled. That's the problem. She froze. Then out of nowhere, a black mother, tall, composed, with eyes like truth and fire, stepped forward and said, "We want to hear what he has to say." Ms. Rayleigh hesitated, then backed off. 10 minutes later, a crowd had gathered, maybe 20 parents, a few teachers, 2 security guards, and yes, him, the same guard who manhandled me like I was trespassing on holy ground. He stood off to the side, arms folded, face unreadable, but you could feel the tension in his posture, like his uniform was the only thing holding him together. I stepped forward. No mic, no stage, just me and my voice. I'm not a judge, I don't wear a badge, I'm not some local hero. I'm a man who showed up every morning with a box of forks and some fruit, just in case a kid came in hungry. Why? Because I've been that kid. I know what it feels like to sit in a classroom with an empty stomach, trying to focus on math when all you hear is your body begging for breakfast. I didn't do it for a title. I did it because I believe kids deserve better. But last week, all of that disappeared in one moment, because one man saw me and decided who I was before I opened my mouth. And the rest of you? You let it happen. I turned to the teen with the phone. Then, of all people, the guard stepped forward. "I was doing my job," he said. "I didn't want the kids to be at risk." I looked him dead in the eye. "You were doing something, all right, but it wasn't your job. Your job is to protect, to assess, to de-escalate. What you did was act out of habit, not policy, not reason, habit." He didn't respond. "You didn't see a man helping a child. You saw an image and filled in the blanks with fear and assumption. That's not safety, that's bias dressed up in a uniform." The quiet after that, it felt heavy. Then, a clap. Just one, from a teacher. Then another. And another. And then it spread. Parents, staff, even a student or two. No thunderous applause, just enough to say, "We heard you." Finally. 2 days later, the guard was reassigned. The school announced a new bias awareness initiative. Some called it performative. Maybe it was, but it was something. They reinstated me officially. I was welcome back, they said. Full access, appreciation, smiles. But I didn't wear the badge anymore. I didn't need it. I came back because silence almost erased my name. Now, they remembered it. And not just the kids. I wasn't a judge, I wasn't a cop, I wasn't a hero. But when I finally spoke, everything stopped. And for the first time in a long time, the world didn't just see me, it listened. Their version was louder while I stayed silent, as told by Frank Miller. The next morning, I showed up 5 minutes later than usual. No fruit bag, no clipboard, no extra forks for the oatmeal line, just me, standing outside the school gate, trying to decide if I still belonged somewhere that now looked at me like I'd grown horns overnight. A few of the kids waved, some didn't. One little boy from 2nd grade, the same one who once called me his toast buddy, yelled out, "Mr. Miller, you coming in for breakfast?" I smiled, nodded, but my feet didn't move. A few minutes later, the assistant principal walked out, white lady, young, voice soft like marshmallows, but eyes stiff as drywall. "Mr. Miller, I'm so sorry, but until things are fully resolved, we're going to have to ask you not to come onto school grounds." I looked at her, not angry, not surprised, just disappointed. "I've been here 6 years," I said. "I've got clearance, letters from parents. I've got an official badge signed by your principal." She shifted on her feet. "I understand, but right now it's a sensitive matter. Some of the parents are concerned." "Concerned because I was yanked into a squad car for doing my job?" Silence. "We just want to avoid further escalation while things settle." I didn't yell, didn't plead. I just nodded slowly, then turned and walked away. Not quickly, not shamefully. I walked slow so they could watch, so they could wonder, even for just a second, what if we got it wrong? I spent the whole day sitting on the porch, not thinking, remembering. I pulled out an old shoebox of handwritten cards the kids had given me over the years. One read, "You're like a second grandpa, but funnier, and you give out apples." Another said, "Thank you for giving me a second toast when I was hungry." These weren't just scribbles. They were receipts, proof of who I was. And just like that, one security guard with a twitchy ego, one bad assumption, and a few silent bystanders turned me from helper to headline. By Wednesday, it got worse. A parent, button-down shirt, pressed pants, one of those voices that talks down to everyone, came to the school office with a complaint. "That man intimidates the children. He should not be allowed near the premises." By the afternoon, it hit Facebook. "Do you know who's around our kids? Who is this Frank Miller guy anyway?" And it was how easy it was for everyone to accept it. How quickly people went from, "Thanks, Frank," to, "Maybe he was up to something." Even the principal, the same woman who handed me a framed certificate last spring for dedicated service, couldn't meet my eyes anymore. I didn't call the local news, didn't post my side of the story, didn't go yelling down City Hall, but inside me, something started to build. Not rage, resolve. Friday evening, I was walking past the park when a teenage boy called out, "Mr. Miller?" I turned. Tall kid, black, 16 or so, backpack hanging off one shoulder, earbuds around his neck. "I saw what happened. That day, I got it all on my phone. The whole thing. How they grabbed you, how the guard never even asked. I was filming a TikTok behind the bushes." My heart jumped, but I kept my voice steady. "Why didn't you tell me sooner?" He hesitated. "I was scared they'd flip it on me. But now I'm more scared not to say something." He handed me the video. And brother, when I say it had everything. Me bending down to help the kid, that guard charging in like I was carrying explosives, the grip, the march to the gate, the teachers turning away, and that boy's voice off camera, barely a whisper, "This ain't right." I went home, didn't sleep, played that video 6 times. No sound, didn't need it. Each time I watched, the same thought got louder. I'm not a judge. I'm not a cop. And I damn sure ain't no superhero. But if I stay silent now, they'll think they were right. FOMO trigger. End of part 2. This is it. The moment before the fire. Everything you felt building up, it's about to hit. And when it does, you'll want to be there to see how this old man flips the whole script. The voice no one wanted to hear. As told by Frank Miller. You ever wake up thinking the day's gonna be quiet, simple, maybe even peaceful? That was me. Monday morning, I had my usual routine: oatmeal with cinnamon, shoes with no laces, and a plastic bag of fruit for the breakfast kids over at East Flint Elementary. It wasn't much, but it made me feel useful, grounded, human. I'm no hero. I don't wear a badge or a robe, and I ain't got a cape tucked in my closet. I'm just Frank, 62, retired elevator tech, knees that sound like bubble wrap, and a habit of showing up early to help in places most people overlook, especially schools. So there I was, back straight, mind calm, picking up a tiny red lunchbox a first grader had dropped. The kid was one of those shy ones, always rubbing his sleeves and staring at the floor. I reached down, handed it back, gave him a small pat on the shoulder, and that's when I heard it. "Don't touch the child!" The voice wasn't kind, wasn't curious. It was sharp, heavy, loaded with something far louder than volume. I turned and saw him. Tall, white, puffed up in a security uniform like he bought it one size too tight on purpose, face locked in like he just caught someone stealing a kid off the playground. "It's his lunchbox," I said calmly, motioning toward the boy. He dropped it. The guard didn't even look at the kid. "And who exactly are you supposed to be, touching other people's property?" Now, I could have told him, could have shown him the badge, the clearance, the years, but I didn't even get the chance. He walked right up, grabbed my arm like I'd snuck in through the sewer drain, and started dragging me toward the front gate like I was some lost dog. And let me tell you, those little kids, they froze. One girl even looked like she was going to cry. 2 parents stood by the fence and turned their backs, and a teacher, she stepped out, saw it happening, and went right back inside, like she didn't want the smoke. "Step away from the children, sir. I'm calling the police," the guard barked, loud enough for every ear in the yard to hear. I pulled my arm back, still calm. "You didn't even ask who I am." He glared. "Didn't have to. I've seen enough." Let that marinate. Didn't have to. I've seen enough. That sentence hit harder than the grip on my shoulder. It didn't matter how many mornings I'd shown up, didn't matter how many kids smiled when they saw me, didn't matter that the principal had shaken my hand just last week and thanked me for showing up consistently. To this man, I was a problem.
Then one of the officers turned and walked toward me, already pulling out his notepad. "You got any ID on you?" "Yes, sir. I'm a school volunteer. My name's Frank Miller. I've got a badge." Yeah, he cut me off. "And I'm the president on weekends." I kid you not, he said that, loud enough for the parking lot to hear. What came next was routine. Not for them, for me. They sat me on the edge of their cruiser, took my ID, ran it, whispered to each other. One started his body cam. The other stood just off to the side, like a wall between me and any real accountability. They didn't ask me for my side, didn't check with anyone, didn't ask the kid what happened. No. They already saw enough. 20 minutes in, the principal, Miss Rayleigh, finally came out. She looked uncomfortable, like she'd just walked into a family argument on Thanksgiving and didn't know whose side to take. She spoke with the officers, showed them my file, told them I'd been volunteering there for over 5 years, cleared, background checked, liked by staff, loved by kids. The officers exchanged a look. One nodded. The other muttered, "Okay." No apology, no handshake, just a shrug and a dismissal like, "Well, guess this one's not on us." I stood up on my own, walked off on my own, didn't ask questions, didn't plead my case, just walked home with my dignity dragging behind me like a torn coat. Next day, same yard, same morning, same people. Only this time, they didn't wave. They didn't smile. They whispered. One parent filed a complaint, "Suspicious man on school grounds." Another teacher pretended not to recognize me. And me? I didn't raise my voice. Didn't demand justice, didn't hold up signs or write angry emails. I just did what any black man with years behind him and wounds nobody sees would do. I remembered. And I waited. FOMO trigger. End of part 1. That was just the beginning. The next part, it's where everything shifts, trust me. You don't want to miss what happens when the silence around him starts to crack.